My life changed immediately and forever when I found solutions for my personal housing and budgeting crisis. And I know there's a lot of us out there that we're spending half of our income on housing, we're taking on credit card debt, life doesn't add up. And waiting for politicians to solve these problems can be very frustrating. So I'm just telling you, there are solutions out there. They're not found in the mainstream. So it's really important not only for you to be aware of these time-proven solutions, but also to share them with your friends. I even have a free web app that can help you with our Thrive budget. So again, youtube.com/Natalie Pace. Today is October 17th, 2024, and we're going to be sharing a lot of resources for you so that you can stop making everybody else rich at our own expense, taking on debt to do so, start living a richer life, learn how to make money while you sleep, and of course, get rid of all that credit card debt. Hi, everyone. So let's get started. I want to start by showing you some of the resources because these are all free and you should definitely be checking them out. I'm going to include links to all of these resources in the description of this particular episode of youtube.com/Natalie Pace so you can access them easily. So first off, I wanted to show you the blog. So we have a blog here called Housing and Budgeting Solutions. There are 7 money secrets of the wealthy that could save all of us tens of thousands of dollars every single year. You definitely want to be reading that blog. I'll come back to it and talk a little bit more about it. Also, that links over to another one, 9 money secrets of the ultra wealthy, and even 10 more secrets of the ultra wealthy. Also, the ABCs of money. This is always priced. The ebook, I think, might be under like $10. There's an entire section on debt reduction, budgeting, investing, all of that there. So you want that resource. And then I also have a free budgeting and adulting life hacks video conference, video coaching series on the YouTube channel. Again, you're going to have links to all of these in the description of this particular episode. You can always email info@nataliepace.com as well, and we'll get that to you. Now, I'm coming back to the housing and budgeting solutions because this is a picture of me with my son, who was at that time about 13. This was in 2003, and we had just teamed up with another single mom. That choice, which saved me a lot of money, tens of thousands every year, put me in a better neighborhood and gave me more free time because I now have another adult in the house. So we could switch off. We actually switched off cooking. And you save a lot even on food when you do that too, right? Because a lot of food gets wasted because if you're just cooking for yourself, you can't eat it fast enough. So that one decision led me personally to the life of my dreams. I now live almost every second of my day is in direct alignment with everything that I believe is important. I'm not going to go into that me, glorious me, but I am saying we all do a lot of things to earn money that are not in direct alignment with what we want to be doing every single day. Statistically, right now, if you're under the age of 40 and you haven't solved the housing problem yet, you could be spending 30 to 50% of your income on housing. So when we talk about taking on credit card debt, or that debt is a budgeting problem, and it doesn't mean it's because you're bad or you're a shopaholic. It really does mean that expenses have gone out of control. And by the way, that hasn't just happened this past couple of years under inflation. That has been happening for 2 decades. The world that millennials were in, many of them, they'd come out of college, they'd have to go back and live with their parents. And then we started hearing things like failure to launch. Well, I gotta say, these ideas are all things that we gotta throw right out the window, because when you come out of college with student loan debt and you get an entry-level position and you try to go get a place, you can't cover your expenses. So, what do we do in that kind of situation? We have to get creative, and that's the only way that we can. And I'm going to give you a couple of inspiring things to think about in this process. Now, also, I have someone here who is a millennial, who is a young professional, who I had the pleasure of coaching a number of years ago when she was still living in her van. She's now talking to me about buying her first home. That's where we want to be going, is we want to stop making everybody else rich. We want to solve this problem that hasn't been solved by the politician for decades. And we want to figure out ways to do it for ourselves so that we can indeed, the ultimate goal is that we aren't just, spinning a hamster wheel and taking on credit card debt. Um, and then we can start building toward that life of our dreams. And Mariah can even talk a little bit. She took a leap of faith and even joined us in England. And I'm probably sure that she didn't feel like she could afford it, but along the way there were a lot of things that happened that were free gifts for her along the way. And in the long scheme, like if you could look at life backwards, that particular leap of faith she took to join us at our retreat in England, that's something that actually might inform every footstep forward in a way that puts her on the path to wisdom instead of the hamster wheel. So I am going to get to Mariah, but again, I want to show you a couple of things to inspire you. We will be talking a lot more about some of the other 7 things, but I am going to let you talk to Mariah first. But let me show you one thing to inspire you, because this is what I believe we should be thinking about instead of failure to launch. Really rich people don't, royals don't buy their own castles. Rich kids don't buy their own homes, they inherit them. And that's what we have to start thinking about, is we have to, this idea that if somebody isn't out in their own little tiny little single or living in a tiny little van, that we've had a failure to launch them, we got to throw that out the window. We really need to think, what doesn't matter which end of the spectrum that you're on, we want to think 3 generations. That's the way rich people do. That's the way royals do. How are we helping our elders that are getting ready to retire? How are we helping our babies that we want to send to college in 20 years? We want our spectrum and our view to be that large. And again, no matter where it is that we fit on this. So I'm going to turn it over to Mariah, because I always say I want to make everybody our best success story, but I am so proud that not only did she listen to these and she threw out those concepts were spinning around, right? Everybody was talking about it. She just said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to believe that. I'm going to find a different way. And so I'm going to let her talk a little bit. And I do hope that also, Mariah, you'll throw in a little bit about your trip to England, because I know that was a leap of faith. I know it wasn't easy. And I know also that people kind of came through for you a little bit. All right, I'm going to pin Mariah and take myself off for a moment. And Mariah, the floor is yours. You just have to, let me unmute you. Okay.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I will go ahead. I made a little presentation here to help keep my thoughts brief and on track. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mariah. I identify very much as a creative, so trying to find the right work and the right sustainable work in this environment. Like Natalie said, I've been a part of her community and kind of a devotee of many of the things that she's teaching on the path to wisdom for a number of years, since about 2018. And yes, today, another hat I'm wearing is I am a millennial who has been living in my mom's basement for a number of years. So chatting a little bit about that and maybe talking about the pros and cons, removing some of the stigma there. So real quick, here's just a little bit of my timeline, my context. I thought it was helpful to start with the fact that I am a military veteran, and I think that colors my experience experience with housing, coming from a place of loving the outdoors, being able to sleep anywhere, being accustomed to, not having a warm shower or just, living as a human animal in different capacities, and having that ability to kind of be flexible in my living situation. So after I left the military, came back to my home in Colorado. I lucked into kind of a corporate job. And at the time, I was trying to figure out apartments and housing. And I saw myself and my coworkers just weren't able to afford, even with a decent job, weren't able to afford the idea of buying a house, or the balance in our budget didn't make sense as far as exceeding 30% on housing, even just for a very basic apartment. So it was at that time that I was grateful to find Natalie. That's the first little star here. Where I started to see this because I was getting frustrated. I said, what am I doing this? What am I giving myself over for in the corporate world if I can't create the life of my dreams, and if I don't feel comfortable buying into a lot of these narratives about wealth? So over time, changed careers a couple times, and I ended up back in my hometown in Colorado, and started living with my mom. During that transition, I had decided to live in a van, since my hometown was about an hour away from where I worked. It was a kind of job where I had 10 hours of work every day. So go to work, sleep in a van, come back to work. Work had a gym, work had a shower. It made the most sense to me, but it was definitely not a long-term solution. So talking just a little bit today about moving back in, living intergenerationally, and how that's been a good thing. And now actually we're at maybe a next transition where my mother is getting older, and she is ready to look at a new situation, housing that's easier for her to move around in, housing where she has less maintenance to do on the house and the lawn. And so we're really evaluating what happens next in our family and what's best for all of us together. Yes, and I will mention that second star there in 2023 was when I was able to go on to the experience in England with Natalie Pace in the community. So I'll come back to that here in just a minute. So super quickly, living in a van for me, definitely I am called to the idea of having a very minimal or an off-grid life. And in 2018, when I first made the decision to live in this top white van here that was not built out to be a living situation. It was very in vogue. It was cool to be van life and, be an adventurer and a wanderluster. So there was a lot of social media hype and over romanticization about what that could be like. And I like that vans don't have the same kind of critters as houses and apartments do. So the other side of that, technically, living in your van is not legal. It is not, it's not up to code for a number of reasons. Safety is kind of a factor. And speaking to Natalie's vision, that a car is not exactly a long-term sanctuary house where you can really be yourself and do all the things that you want to do in your home. So the choice then to move into my mom's basement, the biggest thing is financially. It makes financial sense from every aspect for me, definitely. Different families have different situations. In my situation, I was able to pay a reduced rent, so way less than I would have had to pay a normal landlord, and then the money is staying in the family as well. So whether I'm paying a full amount of rent or no rent, we're at least all working together. And at this point now, it's actually that situation has done a lot to help repair and grow some damage in my relationship with my family. And now I'm in a position where I'm able to help her. And we're reevaluating that situation now of she's been helping me, and now what can I do to be a part of her life? So of course we're moving past this kind of cultural stigma. Natalie's a very data-driven person, and the data shows this is really what makes sense. And culturally, lots of other cultures, including, royal families for centuries, for generations, live intergenerationally. And so I think it's time that we really reevaluate this. The other downside, though, is that different family dynamics might be different. And so it's not always available or the best option.
Right.
So yeah, the last quick thing here is Now we're thinking bigger. The bottom picture there is the picture that's behind Natalie, of the Royal Manor House that absolutely changed the ways that I think about possibilities for housing. The example picture on the top is an example of Earthship homes, which I then was able to tour and visit. And I'm really interested in just all kinds of different alternatives, whether it's an Earthship or whether it's just thinking differently about how housing is set up, how we share our resources, how we live communally in different ways, and how to have housing that reflects our life and is our sanctuary home, is financially responsible and environmentally sustainable and responsible as well. Yeah, so thank you so much. That's just a little bit of my information there, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, tell us a little bit about the leap of faith to go then to restore mole. And how do you think, like I can talk about these subjects a lot, right? But how did it feel to live there for a week in a home that's actually owned by, at that time, King Charles, now Prince William?
Oh, yes, so many things come to mind. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend that trip for so many reasons. I just have to shout out the Eden Project there too was just
Yeah.
phenomenal. But I think a lot actually about being at the Manor House. In my current position, I'm working with immigrants and refugees. I teach English and technology skills, and we actually talk about housing as part of our classes. And I do this exercise where we talk about our dream homes, and we look at that, and over and over and over people want, a beautiful space that is all their own with room and vegetation, flora, fauna. They don't, most of the people that I'm interacting with, we don't want to just be in a tiny little cubicle apartment, for different reasons. And the county where I live came in to use some of our immigrant and refugee students as a focus group for some of these alternative housing plans because they say, we looked at the numbers, we know that housing is 50% of people's budgets right now and that something has to give. And it was really interesting to be a part of that conversation and to get to talk with lots of newcomers to our area after having some of these experiences and thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could just, build a manor house, build, something communal. Like we're ready for this. The need is here. Yes, I don't think I answered your question because the feelings definitely are indescribable. For me, the biggest thing outside of just the experiences is all of the ways it opened my mind to new possibilities, not just theories, but really going, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. And how could we do this? Well, we would need this partnership. And so it really, outside of just the great experience of being there, set the wheels in motion to want to keep that going and to keep all of these indescribable joys and new learnings, if I can say that, new experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, is there anything else that you really, I love your PowerPoint presentation, especially the pros and cons, right? Um, how different do you feel today after, I just remember you when you were still living in your van, and it seemed to me like you didn't think that it was possible for anything else. And in fact, there was even and understandable. Just FYI, full disclosure, I moved in with another single mother, right? Like I really had established my life in California, and my family is in Arizona and New Mexico. So it was a better match for me to try to find somebody in the area that I had already, I had lived in California for over a decade. So I really wanted to stay there and to raise my son here. So, we do have to honor those things, those rationale, and we try to find, but I like that idea too. And, I promote it very much is keep the money in the family. So, but I remember you because you were kind of like, I don't think I can do that. And then something shifted because we all face that, right? We're like, we're stuck in this thing that's eating us alive. Our money isn't adding up. We're taking on credit card debt. We're not living anywhere close to the situation we want. And by the way, the path to the situation we want isn't going to be, oh, tomorrow I'm in my dream life home, right? It is a pathway. So, what did you do to do the personal work to break free from that mindset that I just have to do it this way?
That's a great question. I think I get that from my mom. We're both a little stubborn when we have something in our mind. And I appreciate that perspective. I think that honestly, working with you and having some coaching classes with you, um, going to the retreats has been part of that path to wisdom, slowly removing those narratives, unlearning those narratives process.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think part of it is removing the emotions and getting back to the data, because I think sometimes I trick myself into thinking that something is one way when I'm like, oh, that's just my fear, or that's just, the news story or something. But is that really the data? I think the other part is spending time getting to know yourself and committing to what your values really are. For example, I like road trips, I like camping. And so for me, some of these options or alternatives make more sense than for a lot of other people, as part of the path, as part of the process. Well, I mean, even in a recent coaching session, at this point, I still have a lot of skepticism and cynicism about where the market is, and oh, I'm never going to find, it's everything's overpriced, and it's all or nothing thinking. And so I think it is really helpful to have a community of people, and definitely some trusted leadership and guidance to bounce ideas off of. So I think I'm still working on that, still working on the keeping your mind open, but definitely, yeah, starting with who am I? What do I want? What do I need? What is my sanctuary home? And then being realistic about the numbers, and just implementing day at a time steps to move in the right directions.
Yeah. And I like also that you mentioned, as part of the process of removing narratives is really understanding the way other people live. Also the data, right? Like if I tell people, look, you cannot balance a budget if you're spending 30 to 50% on housing and living in a crap hole in the meantime, right? So yeah, these are good words of wisdom. Okay, I did promise that I would give you guys a few of these tips, and then we will have a little bit of a conversation off air, and answer some questions if you guys have some. So first off, the housing situation is the biggest expense for most of us, and that's the one that we really want to be thinking about, is how is it that I can limit, and I call it the Thrive Budget. And by the way, this is another app that it's a free web app that we have for people. And I am going to be including it in the links. It looks very basic, but let's say you make $100,000 a year, right? Ideally, if you're if you can limit all of your basic needs to $50,000, then you have enough money to earn money while you sleep in your retirements and start planning for your future. By the way, that's financial predator proof, so it's important to do even if you have debt. Charity, you have money for. Charity is the best networking. It's led me to every great job I've ever had. Education is the highest correlating factor with income. For some people, that will be paying off student loan debt. For others, that might be depositing money in a college fund for their kids. Or it might be educating yourself on something new, like financial freedom, our financial freedom retreats, or whatever it is that's going to enhance your life. And then, of course, fun, because that gives us free, oxytocin and other endorphins that are actually proven to be very healthful for us. Now, whenever I do this, people say, well, who can live on 50,000, especially when you have to put in their transportation and taxes and all of that? Well, most of that stuff and health insurance, most of that stuff, there's a solution for. Billionaires usually pay a much lower tax rate than the people who work for them because earned income is the highest taxation. Peter Thiel, a billionaire, has $5 billion dollars in his Roth IRA. So we have to start getting smart about all of the ways that we can stop making the tax man rich, the insurance company rich, the health insurance company rich, right? All of that sort of thing is going to be important for us. So start with housing. Then we could start looking at transportation costs. If you are American, you can probably reduce your costs that you pay for your health insurance by tens of thousands, some people even more than that every year with smarter choices there. You could also start looking at ways that you can reduce food costs. A community garden, a lot of times you can actually grow your own produce. That's going to save a lot of money. So there are ways that you can do that. There's even a nonprofit organization in the San Diego area, maybe in your area too, and they come in and they take the grass out of your lawn, your yard. That's going to also reduce your water bill, right? They put in a gardening plot for you, and they glean some of it for themselves and for, others in need, and they give it to you. So you don't even have to do your own gardening. So there are solutions out there for all kinds of ways that we could be living a richer life, a more healthy life, stop making everybody else rich. And again, I really go and outline all of this in those resources that I've just shared with you. So you can start with the free video coaching if you want. Again, there are 12 episodes there. It's right here. And this, sorry, oh, that's the link to my interview with Carmel Boss. She is the CEO of Co-Abode. So this is an organization that helps people single mothers find one another. They also help single dads and other people too. So it's not just limited to single moms. This is the budgeting and adulting life hacks. There are 12 episodes that talk about all these things that I just outlined. Again, there's a lot, all of these tips are in the ABCs of Money. Be sure you're getting the 6th edition. All right. So the easiest way to do that is just go to nataliepace.com and click on the book cover there. And again, there's going to be links to these blogs, 9 Money Secrets of the Ultra Wealthy, Housing and Budgeting Solutions, and 10 More Secrets of the Ultra Wealthy. So again, when we stop making the tax man, the landlord, the health insurance company, the grocery store these days, the utility companies, the water utility companies, when we stop making all these people rich at our own expense, we can keep that money in the family. We can live a richer life. We can actually have a vacation every year, all of that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop it right now so that if anybody has a question for Mariah, that they're able to ask it. And we'll, if of course, if it's something that we need to talk to you guys about, we'll come back and we'll record it. So just okay. So this question comes from someone who I know is getting closer to retirement, and they said, "Hey, should I pay off my 5% mortgage, or should I use that money to invest? What is the better idea?" And it's actually a multi-pronged question. So the first thing is, if your home is where you're going to spend the rest of your life, then it is a very good idea to align your mortgage payoff date with that date that you are going to be going on fixed income and are no longer earning active income. And the reason for that is that most of us, when we go on our fixed income and we're relying upon that money we saved up and invested or earning a little bit of money on, it's less than what we actively earned. So the more bills that we can toss out the window, the better off we're going to be. However, I have seen other people do it a different way. So I had one professional, and she decided, hey, I'm going to rent out my big house. That's going to become my income. And I'm going to buy a smaller place so that I can travel 6 months out of the year. Right. So that particular person, having, especially some people have mortgages that are under 4, some are even under 3%. That is a family asset. So be aware of that. Like if you actually have a very low interest mortgage and you have the ability to use that property, that home as income, or that can be the home or property of the next generation, that the mortgage can be a part of the whole keep the money in the family thing. Because if they refinance it at 6.5, where mortgage rates are right now, they're paying a lot more money to the bank. So we really want to be thinking about, again, across the generations, where we fit in there. Is this going to be where we live, or was it the family house and it's really too big for just us, right? So will it become the family house? Will we get an ADU in the backyard that we move into, have the kids and their kid, the grandkids move in? Maybe that's where a good school area is. So again, I want you to be thinking intergenerationally and what makes sense. And any mortgage that is 5% or under may be part of the asset of that particular asset as well. Now, the second part of that question was, is it better to invest it? So earning money while you sleep is a very big part of getting wealthy, right? Like making sure that you are depositing 10% of your income religiously into tax protected retirement accounts. And that you're investing it age appropriate, proper diversification. Let me show you what that looks like. So the first thing that you want to do is go to our other free web app, which is our investing web app. You're going to put in your age. Right now, we're overweighting 20% safe because stocks are high. If you want to change that, feel free to, but I would still say with stocks high and all of the risk in the markets that it's a good idea to overweight something safe. Let's say this particular person is 50 and they have $100,000 income per year and they have 490,000 in their retirement accounts. This particular person is going to want to have at least 350,000 of their 500, because they're going to have 500,000 this year because they deposit 10%, right? So they're going to want to have 50% safe and another that 100,000 if they're overweighting safe. So that means they only have 150,000 at risk in stock funds. Now, the other thing, and that's why two things, we actually have a retreat that we're hosting this weekend. It's our financial freedom retreat. So it teaches you how to use that pie chart, how, what are the 10 funds you want to invest in? What is safe? How can you earn a safe income without losing principal? Because we're hearing from a lot of people who have managed plans that they have a lot of paper losses. Those actually can be real losses, not just on paper. They're not as innocuous as our financial advisors may be trying to convince us. So again, the retreat is this weekend. If you'd like to join us, you got to reach out right away because we start bright and early, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, tomorrow, Friday. And it is 3 full days. Also, because what's safe is so tricky, and because the safe side lost more than stocks, it lost 26% in long-term bonds in 2022, and it didn't come back. We are hosting our bond and what's safe masterclass the Saturday after our retreat. So you want to be sure to go to the 3-day before you take the masterclass because you need that foundation before the masterclass will make sense to you. So again, it's all about, I call it, this may look like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of data. And, when Mariah was talking, she was saying, hey, the data set me free, right? So getting what we call the life math that we all should have received in high school makes these choices easier to make because it makes sense. Right? Once something makes sense, all of those stories and narratives and labels and that's the way life is that is out there in the world that's got, look, consumer debt is at an all-time high. It's a huge crisis right now, right? Most of us are really in trouble. A lot of people are taking on credit card debt just to pay their mortgage. So it's really important for this to be something that we share with everybody. And I will say the data and the wisdom and the time-proven systems, the life math that we all should have received in high school, definitely in college. We don't receive it there either. I have all kinds of people, MBAs, PhDs in math. And that is why, Gary Becker, Nobel Prize winning economist, enthusiastically recommends these systems. They work. So I would just say you got to learn it, whether it's reading about it in the books, and look, that free video coaching, 12 episodes of free video coaching on adulting and life hacks. so that you can, get a handle on this, start saving money, start earning money while you sleep. Doesn't matter which side you're ready to retire or just coming out of college or actually preparing for college. There's all kinds of resources available all up and down the generational life math needs. So thanks again for joining me. Remember, you can always reach out to us at info@nataliepace.com. We host these free video conferences at least once a month. So go to youtube.com/Natalie Pace and be sure to subscribe there. Share it with your friends. We have to solve the problems. Again, it's not like this was a problem that just happened during inflation of the last 2 years. Mariah had the problem in 2018. That was before inflation was under 2% then, right? And at that time, by the way, you could still get a mortgage that was, maybe even under 3%. So really important for everybody to get this information and to stop making everybody else rich so that we can, as Main Street folks, live richer lives and live the life that we believe in. I have one last tip, especially for those of you that are interested in earthships. Don't build walls out of tires. Okay, they're made out of oil. They leach toxic fumes. So there's a couple of tricks that even if you want to be sustainable that you have to know. And by the way, I've been studying sustainability too since 2002. And so I have a book called The Power of 8 Billion. It's up to us that you should also check out if you're interested in sustainability. So again, on the homepage, just click right there. The foreword was written by the president of earthday.org, which is the largest environmental organization in the world. So she's been a part of our tribe since 2016. And, she's been part of my brain trust educating me. Not the only one. The royal family has been educating me on all this stuff as well. So other people, across the spectrum, even, Queen Diambi of the Democratic Republic of Congo, who I believe will be joining us at our Restore Royal Manor House retreat. So thanks again for joining me, and reach out, info@nataliepace.com. Join us this weekend. Join us at this life-changing experience, and live a rich life.